Yes, as the dust continues to settle around the wreckage of the crashed election of 2023, particularly the presidential election, NINAS comes to you today to take a summary of where we are now in the middle of the wilderness that we have found ourselves. Everybody will recall that from the constitutional force majeure of 16th December 2020, by which NINAS declared a union dispute and offered the country a 5-point proposition that will have taken us immediately to a transitioning in place of elections. Looking back from what has happened with the elections and where Nigeria is today, we are certain that many will now be saying in their minds, some are saying it openly, that election was not the way to go because the constitution was the problem that needed to be fixed. Of course, we've heard all kinds of people coming out to say, starting with Obasanjo and Utomi and Mogalo and Meka Nyoko, all kinds of people who didn't quite see the connection of the constitution with the disaster that Nigeria had become. It is the unitary constitution of Nigeria that is 100% responsible for where Nigeria is today. Those who say, oh, leadership is our problem, let's go and solve leadership. Yes, leadership is a problem. Oh, corruption is our biggest problem, let's go and solve corruption, everything will be fine. Yes, corruption is a problem, a very big problem at that. But the leadership that is failed and failing, the corruption that is growing in leaps and bounds, are products of the inverted constitutional arrangement we have. It is the unitary constitution of Nigeria talking about cause and effect analysis. That is how rational human beings solve their problems. You take a cause-effect analysis. You don't leave the ailment and begin to deal with the symptom. Bad leadership is a product of the anomalous constitutional arrangement. Corruption is a product of that constitutional arrangement. Impunity we see are all mandated by that constitution. The corruption, the bad leadership, because in the non-accountability, in the provisions that ensure non-accountability embedded in that constitution. Where will you get the good leadership from? So the constitution mandates corruption and protects its beneficiaries. The constitution, we've seen the election that happened now. It is the centralized control of the electioneering machinery that is responsible for the outcome we have seen. That people could sit in one corner of Abuja and determine who gets PVC, who gets BVAS, what votes are collected or not collected. In all of that, in a federation, there should be no INEC. That is the problem. The fact that election into federal and state offices are, domiciled in the exclusive list of the Constitution of Nigeria. That is the reason election has never gone right. That's the reason election will never go right under that Constitution. So, if it is the same for corruption that is created and protected by that Constitution, the same for the bad leadership, because tell me now how you're going to get any good leadership from the kind of, processing of candidates that is done by institutions that are already compromised on account of that exclusive, that being unaccountable to anybody. That's what it is. And so we come back to where we are now. We listen to the candidates. The reason we're saying this is that we raised this alarm before we went. NINAS did raise this alarm before we went to the election in 2015. If you doubt me, go on YouTube right now and click ahead of 2015 elections as a title. Click it and view whatever comes out. So you could see that we had, for 3 electoral cycles, been telling our people that under this constitution, things can only get worse. If you plot a graph of what had happened since then, whether it was corruption you were looking at, you will see that it's been a steep descent, a straight line. Every 4 years, as you connect the dots, you see that you get a straight line heading south on how we're faring in corruption. You plot for impunity, you will see the same straight line. You plot for the value of your currency. What was the naira exchanging for against the dollar, in 2011, 12, up to 30. You check it from that time, you get the same graph. Maybe there's too much of physics and chemistry and mathematics in my head. That's why I see everything in terms of graphs. It's not empty statistics. You're able to say it was here today, it was here the day before, it was here. When you pin them down on a paper, you will see that you get something that will tell you where next it will go. For corruption, for impunity, look at the infrastructure. I'm sure some of you see the videos that go viral, the expressways all around the country. You plot a graph for where they were before and where they are now, you see the same thing. The value of your currency. The naira is now above 1,000 to $1. For those who may be rejoicing that the magic of anybody is working about how the thing will go up and come down, $10 billion was borrowed to inflict this pretense, to generate this pretense that it's getting better. $10 billion have been borrowed by this same reckless bunch of criminals. And when I say criminal, I say it knowing the weight of what it is to say that people are criminals. Why do I call them criminals? The Constitution 1999, Nigeria defined by that Constitution, is a criminal enterprise. And so anybody who is prepared to swear to defend and uphold that Constitution, to govern by that Constitution, is a criminal of the worst order. All those who went to buy forms to contest election 2023 under that Constitution are criminals, are hardened criminals, because there's no other outcome to expect than what we live in now. The only thing that has happened is that the smarter of the several criminals had carried the day in the place of dancing in the dark that they call election. And so back to where we are. Let's listen to what the candidates, the frontline candidates in the election, had said, so that you can see the criminality we're talking about. We had Atiku Abubakar addressing the media the other day after the Supreme Court judgment. We also had Peter Obi doing the same a few days after. Atiku Abubakar says, going forward, that he will be spending his energies helping to nurture the democracy, to deepen the democracy, using his words. As if we have democracy under this Constitution. Then he says there should be amendment of Constitution, the risk that the country has to be restructured, and he specifically said amendment of Constitution. I asked Atiku Abubakar, which Constitution is he talking about to be amended? Who has made the Constitution that will be amended? Or is this criminality of 1999, this fraud of 1999 that Atiku Abubakar is still talking about amending? And saying that the younger generation should lead the fight now. We sat down, the country should now be told I'm sure we've mentioned it before, but we have to now say it again so that we can know the kind of monsters we are dealing with. In 2016, we sat down with Atiku Abubakar to explain to him what was wrong with the foundation of the constitutional foundation of Nigeria. He very clearly understands that we are saying that the constitution is a fraud through and through. We have not made any constitution. Those who imposed what we now have as constitution actually intended all of what we are seeing now, whether it is for corruption or for impunity or for infrastructural decay or for centralized control of electoral machinery or for security that is controlled from one spot in a federation. What do we do to solve the problem? Oh, everybody will say, hey, restructuring. What is the meaning of restructuring? NINAS did put specific meaning to that restructuring. That is to say, a wholesale constitutional reconstruction. That is to accept that we have not made any constitution. The treason of 1999 by which Absalom Abubakar, by decree number 24, imposed a document that nobody had anything to do with other than himself and whoever he sent around. Himself and his co-travelers, his confederates in the Supreme Military Council of the time, claiming that we, the people, have solemnly resolved to live together, meaning that we submitted our sovereignty and enacted our damnation. That is what you find in the preamble to that constitution. It's all a lie. We can't continue to build on that falsehood. That is what has brought the life of these 200 million people to where it is now. And so Atiku Abubakar is saying we have to go and amend the constitution that we have not made. It is a compounding of the criminality we are talking about. Then you turn to Peter Obi. He says, going forward, that his party will now be opposition party, and that he will continue to accord the primacy of place to the Constitution of Nigeria. That means that Peter Obi, in November of 2023, is still clinging tenaciously to the Constitution that is the source of the damnation that people are living in. He is not on the side of the people in this discussion. The life will come from taking down that constitution. But Peter Obi says he will continue to accord the primacy of place. That is, that constitution which he will have been swearing to defend and uphold. He is still saying that it is the best thing for Nigeria. He speaks glibly of restructuring. Of course, his amendment that must be the... Which constitution are we to use to... What? The constitution is the basis of union. Union agreement. Union arrangement. As agreed, as discussed. So if we have not solved that problem, and we have a constitution that begins with the lie that we have agreed, that continues with the lie that we enacted the articles of our relationship in agreeing to come to live together. We are building on that falsehood that we agreed to be in 36-state formation. And the same Peter Obi will come around to talk about cost of governance. What is anybody going to do about cost of governance in which we are financing the 36 states and 704 local government areas plus a federal capital territory on the back of a humongous federal government that leaves us with 812 governments that we must finance every year, every month. 812 governments. When we had only 4 governments, that's 3 regions and one federal government. Even when it became 4 regions, we had only 5 governments. There was more governance provided. There was more facility built. There were more schools and hospitals and roads built. Because there was a limited bureaucracy. Now we have 812 governments. By the creation of decrees, states were being created because there was oil money to share. The oil is gone now. Local government areas should have nothing to do with constitution. It is the internal affair of the federating units. They can create 100, they can make any number they like, just internal administrative units of a federating unit. But by brigandage of military fiat, 774 local government areas found their way into the constitution. Anybody who is talking about reducing cost of governance, but who does not begin with dismantling these 812 useless entities in the manner they are now, is a criminal. I repeat, anybody who is talking about reduction of cost of governance is not because of the allowance of senator. I'm not saying that they are not overpaid. They are paid more than 50 times what could be paid in the circumstances of Nigeria. They already paid more than 50 times. So even if you reduce it 50 times over, it doesn't begin to address the question of having 774 local government areas that have to be financed, or 36 states that were not created on the basis of any other consideration than sharing of revenue that is stolen. It is the Niger Delta people's oil that is hijacked by Nigeria, that is being shared in Abuja. Is the money realized from the ports of Lagos, the money realized from the taxes being paid by companies headquartered in Lagos, the VAT that is contributed from all kinds of places far from where it is being shared in Abuja. So that criminal enterprise called Nigeria has only one business: to steal, to kill, and to destroy, enabled by this constitution. And so these two candidates, who even after all of what happened in the election, and we are talking to the people of Nigeria right now to let them know that the political parties are not on their side. The political parties do not wish them life, do not wish them any kind of welfare. Under this constitution, your life will continue to get into further ruins. The refineries that are not working, for which reason petroleum products are being imported, it is that same constitution that put refineries on the exclusive list, such that the capacity to refine is locked out. None of the 4 refineries is working. The one in which they allocated everything to Dangote to come and do for us, instead of removing refineries from that bondage of exclusivity. That is the solution. So whether you talk about cost of governance or availability of petroleum products and the fuel subsidy that goes with it, Labour Congress, listen carefully. And all of those who may be planning to go and say their life has now become difficult, why are you not interested in the discussion relating to the source of that problem, which is this constitution? The killings going on in the Middle Belt, again, that same constitution, because it puts arms and ammunition in the exclusive list. Everything that torments you comes from that constitution. If you are not already standing in your community and shouting the way we are shouting, talking to the political parties that are leading you to election. Election is the mechanism by which the life of that constitution is renewed. You are the one now renewing your own the cause of your own, ruination and damnation. We talked about it before 2015, nobody listened. We talked about it before 2019, nobody listened. All the 3 years leading to 2023 elections, every day we were everywhere telling everybody, don't go, don't go, don't go. The church leaders were there, cheering them on. Go get your PVC. Have you not got your PVC now? Have you not voted? Where has it left you? It takes being blind not to see that the people who led you to that journey were leading you to slaughterhouse. We told you, go to YouTube now and click the title. Are the sheep misleading the shepherds? Because the shepherds, that is the men of God in Nigeria, told us that they will go where the sheep will go. When we were telling them, can't you see that these people are going into further damnation, going to election under that constitution? They said, no, we will go only where the sheep go. Shepherd is now misled by sheep into death. Because that's the outcome of going to election in 2023 under that constitution. We speak the way we speak now because those who have become opposition party may be rallying you to come with them to 2027 so that it will get better. This time, it will not end, it will not stop with we telling you, because we also live in that disaster you have dragged us into. It will be a fight on the street. Anybody who will suggest that we'll go to another election under this constitution, even from now. So those who are planning to do opposition party must tell us the constitution under which they will be doing all of that. Otherwise, we will count them as trying to aid the enemy. We come back to what do we do with the one of 2023 that has ended in disaster, that has ended inconclusive. The time to go to transition is now. If anybody is stupid enough to think that what happened on February 25 in 2023 will be basis of drawing governmental powers and authority for 4 years, such a person requires an examination of his head or her head. We must now accept that the constitution that we were tolerating for the sake of avoiding anarchy has now been abandoned by those who were enforcing it against us. The executive, through INEC, started the commotion by declaring as winner a candidate that did not satisfy the mandatory requirement of that constitution. The judiciary joined both the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court in now validating that atrocity. And so the system has abandoned the constitution of 1999 to die on the street. We were waiting to accord that constitution some decent burial. But since it has been abandoned by those who were enforcing it, we told them we were going to join them. All of those who are planning one revolution or protest or the other, all we need to do now is to say, like Ahmed Baba Ahmed Dati, Obi's running mate, said on Arise TV, power belongs to the people. The sovereignty belongs to the people. So any day, it doesn't matter that the election happened just yesterday. The constitution is what we are rejecting. We must go to transition now to rework that constitution, to even have a union. Right now, we don't have a union. Anybody who thinks we have a union will have to learn the hard way, because those whose sovereignty were hijacked and who are being tormented in that pretense that there's a constitution binding them, they are not going to fold their arms to be killed to the last person. They are not going to fold their arms while their assets are being wasted by people whose only concern is how to buy more SUVs for themselves, 160 million for one person, and they actually come to national TV to tell us that the roads are bad, therefore they have to buy SUVs for themselves. We saw the one of 5 billion yacht for the president. Is that not madness that is dancing naked on stage in this kind of situation we are in? And then you go and borrow $10 billion to pretend that Naira is recovering. There must be an end to buffoonery. There must be an end to chicanery. There must be an end to this criminality. Transition now for union reconstruction, for constitutional renegotiation. Every day we postpone it brings us exponentially closer to disaster that will not give any further warning. We stop here.